Thank you for joining us, Willie.
Sarah, Rich, it's great to be with you. I feel like we've met before. You both look very familiar, but I'm honored to be with you.
That's
You've probably met a
strange.
million people like
I don't
us.
know what's going on with your brain.
Let's kick things off. Today marks a dark day in the nation's history as a sitting American president announces plans to abandon the American war machine in its time of need.
I cannot believe that at the tender age of 20, we are pulling out of, which country is it again?
We cannot continue the cycle of extending or expanding our military presence in Afghanistan, hoping to create ideal conditions for the withdrawal and expecting a different result.
I'm sorry, I thought this was a forever war, not a 20-year, exhaustive, totally unnecessary war.
Some of America's leading editorial pages were quick to condemn the move that would leave the military's most vulnerable contractors without a steady diet of watching bomb go boom boom.
Republican Senator and kid the gang sends home before the big rumble, Lindsey Graham, said this.
Afghanistan is going to deteriorate pretty rapidly. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are going to come back. He's paving the way for another 9/11.
Just to push back a bit, we no longer depend on foreign countries for our 9/11s. The pandemic proved we can crank out 9/11s every day, all by ourselves.
Now, Willie, how does Biden expect to build back better without building up troop levels?
You know, it's interesting to hear senators and people in Congress and pundits talk about beating a hasty retreat from Afghanistan after 20 years. There are men and women serving over there who weren't born on 9/11. So on the one hand, you have the people who say, let's get out of there. That's Joe Biden. On the other hand, you have people who say, well, it can't be calendar based. We can't circle a date on the calendar and say we're leaving because it's been 20 years. They want it to be conditions based, that when things are good enough on the ground, then we can go. To which I ask, when exactly might conditions on the ground in Afghanistan be good enough for us to leave?
But, you know, the sacrifice has been well worth it. Look at these photos of Afghanistan in 2001 and today. No need to say thank you.
Now, in lighter news, injections of Johnson & Johnson's COVID vaccine were put on pause because it's apparently the one medical treatment Americans demand have absolutely zero side effects.
Dr. Fauci interrupted a pre-taped segment featuring Dr. Fauci for a live hit of Dr. Fauci to say this.
You could say this is going to have a negative impact on the issue of hesitancy. But on the other hand, it may actually work in the opposite direction because people want to know that safety is a very important issue.
It's so great that even after a year of ignoring 500,000 COVID deaths, America's still capable of freaking out over one.
Now, Willie, doesn't this pause ultimately just put thousands at risk of taking a hit on their financial investment in Johnson & Johnson?
I'm glad you're focused on the right part of the story, Sarah, but we
Thank
interviewed
you.
Dr. Fauci this morning.
Ooh, tough get.
And the question is this pause, are these 6 cases, this 1 in a million chance based on the available data that you might get this blood clot disorder, is that worth all the fear that you're placing into the country about getting the vaccines?
I'm sick of people freaking out about blood clots. The birth control I was on back in the day consistently gave us deep brain thrombosis and made our blood permanently the consistency of cotton candy. Here, look.
Oh, no.
Oh,
God, Eleanor.
Eleanor.
I do this every dinner date to let the wealthy protocorps know I am pilled up and down for unprotected intercourse.
Oh, that's very romantic.
Well, moving on, the New York Times is reporting Matt Gaetz may have been overly trusting of the scam artist who found him teens to bang. The other half of his Eiffel Tower, Joel Greenberg, a one-time county tax collector, disclosed to investigators that he and Mr. Gaetz had encounters with women who were given cash or gifts in exchange for sex. Gaetz violated the trust placed in him by the American people by using Venmo instead of his own untraceable cryptocurrency, like a total amateur.
CNN also spoke directly with 2 women who attended these parties that we were somehow not invited to.
We're told folks mingled and shared drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy. One of the women said that she saw Congressman Gaetz take a pill she believed was a recreational drug. Now, some of the people at these parties also had sex.
Willie, did you see anything untoward when you were at these parties?
My invite was lost in the mail, or maybe it was one of those evites that I can never open.
You just click on it. What's wrong with you?
You know, Matt Gaetz is a guy who probably came into Congress to get famous anyway, to get a talk show, maybe to get a book deal, to become a pundit of some kind.
These parties sound extremely vanilla. In my heyday, me and Nixon would have foreplay parties where guests would drip melted Watergate tapes into his urethra until he gushed the incriminating wax out all over Bob Woodward's chest bush.
Oh, Eleanor, that's amazing. Now, moving on.
I spent a lot of time in Ronald Reagan's limo. One time he sat on my face so hard I shot out of his mouth like a snake choking on a rabbit. Nancy ripped her clothes off like they were on fire.
What a life you've had, Eleanor.
I'll take that grimace as arousal.
Ooh, Willie.